You want me to let all the people in from the waiting room?
If you can. All right, and we are simulcasting, reclaiming hosting, and then we can start the presentation and the greetings.
Muy buenos días y bienvenidos nuevamente a la segunda sesión, Abriendo las Puertas, en donde hablaremos sobre el reclutamiento de la facultad adjunta en San Diego City College. Today we're going to talk about the recruitment and onboarding process for adjunct faculty at San Diego City College. As you know, social justice is our mantra, it's our core value. One of the primary barriers to building a pipeline of diverse faculty is the hiring process. Today you will hear from adjunct faculty, you will hear from faculty, administrators, and human resources as to the different steps that will take you to become one of our adjunct faculty at City. We are a HSI institution. We take that seriously, and we're very intentional with the programming that we're doing. We want to make sure that we prepare the next generation of adjuncts to make sure that in the near future, those adjuncts can become potentially full-time faculty at City College. As you know, contact hours are important, and our students benefit from having someone that looks like them in the classroom. So thank you very much for coming back. We wish you, I would like to take this opportunity to say special thank you to VPI Tilly Chavez, Dean Erika, Lori Erika, Dean Marciano Perez, and also Dan and Tia. Thank you very much and enjoy this presentation. I will introduce Dean of Instructional Services, Tilly Chavez.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for returning. And next slide, Dan, please. Thank you. And thank you, Dean Valadez. Great introductions. And I also want to add in the thank you, everyone here today that's joining us in helping us present. A special thanks to Elba Salinas for helping us put the faculty touch back onto our presentation and making sure that we've captured some things on there as well. And so thank you. My job today is I want to tell you a little bit about San Diego Community College District and City College, and then perhaps why we're here and where we go next. So thank you again. San Diego City College, San Diego Community College District is one of the largest districts in the nation. And we are fortunate to be one of 3 sister colleges. We have Mesa College, Miramar, and of course the best, City College. And we happen to have such a beautiful history of where we sit, being here over 100 years, founded. I guess I've been muted, so let me try this again. Thank you for joining us. And I'm just going to start over because I'm not sure if you had any of that, you heard any of it or not. And wait, that just stumped me for a moment. So thank you. Welcome to San Diego Community College District. And it is my pleasure as the Vice President of Instruction to be able to introduce to you the panels that we have today and coming forward. I also wanted to give a very special thank you to Elva Salinas for helping us out and putting in that faculty touch and spin that she always does. And they're very sacred to our hearts. Anyways, thank you, Roberto, for that. San Diego Community College District is one of the largest districts in the nation to serve our students, and we are fortunate to be one of 3 colleges. And Mesa College, Miramar, and City College being the best of the 3, all serve San Diego area. I also don't want to forget in continuing education that serves a wonderful population, and we work very well with them and collaborate. I want to tell you a little bit about City College, if I may. At City College, our values are circled around what Dean Valadez already talked about. And what he was mentioning and saying with social justice and our mantra of being social justice is really what City College embraces. And I have to tell you, that's what brought me to City College. It was almost a year ago today that I set foot on City College. I had researched City College for months before coming here. And the day that I set foot for my very first interview, it was 2 years ago, 2 years ago, I fell in love with City College. I knew that this was the place that I was searching to work at my entire life, to be honest with you. And I knew that I had to be here. I knew that it felt like I was a fit for this place. And I think that's real important for the things we're talking about today, to make sure that you do fit with the values, the goals, the mission. And City College is all about student-centered success and learning. We're really here. Everyone that is here at this campus is here for students. And we're here for them to be successful and to look at our future. What you'll find at City College is over 50% of our students are Latinx or Chicanx. And you will find that they're about 10% African American. And I want to tell you a little bit about the downtown area where we're located. We're located right in the midst of downtown, adjacent to Balboa Park. The footprint is approximately about 63 acres, about 40 buildings. When I first came to this college, I thought this was not a community college that I stepped foot on. I thought, is this some university? Because it just appears to have so many, that urban feeling of downtown. It's exciting. Missing it a great deal. I'm sure everyone else is too. So I just wanted to give a small little update on that, those types of things. And really back to the demographics that I just mentioned, Dean Valadez said something that was so important. And it took me years to really understand. My background is in nursing. So I've been a nurse for a number of years, we'll say. And I can remember being a faculty member teaching nursing, maybe after about 10 or 12 years, that a student came up to me, and the student would just keep coming to all of my office hours. She didn't need my help. She didn't need anything from me, but she would just keep coming. And I always had that open door. She would just come in. And finally, I just said to her, you know, you really aren't needing my assistance. May I ask why you come? She said, just to be around you. I have never in my education had someone that looks like me be my teacher. And I have to tell you, that was a moment that took me back to say, wow, I had not thought of that, because in my generation, it didn't happen. It never occurred. So it was a new era for me, a new way of thinking, a new way of looking at things, and how we want to present to our students in the future. So now we want to ask, why are we here today? And what are we looking for about this? And why are we gathered? So what I wanted to share with you, by having Abriendo las Puertas today, trying to open the doors to diversity in our hiring, I'm hoping that today all of us will walk away with something, whether you're a student and looking to see what the future might bring, and you might be a student of color and what might be available for you. If you're a faculty member or someone looking for a position, and how do I get into that? How do I open that door? How do I get in? So today should help for those types of things. If you are someone that works at City College and you're a hiring manager, or you actually have the opportunity to influence someone, I'm hoping that you're going to learn something today. I'm going to learn something. I've already seen what's on the agenda, and I know the individuals that are here. I'm so excited, and I can't wait to see what is all going to be brought together between HR and our faculty's cultural backgrounds, and all of those different pieces. Is going to be a magnificent day. So thank you for being here. And next slide. So today, some of the types of positions that we're going to be talking about or looking at, you might say, if you haven't heard, in San Diego Community College District, we are in a hiring freeze. And that is a fact. So why in the world are we still trying to offer this workshop and help individuals? Several reasons. First, I'm going to go on the other side of this, and I have been in several final interviews, and I have seen individuals that were so close to getting a position, but they just didn't know how to close it or finalize what needed to be done in that interview. So that is part of it. We want to help you. We want to help others. And the other part of that is, yes, we are in technically a hiring freeze, but we are still in need of individuals. And in the instructional area, we often might need to hire someone for our CCAP programs, for our high schools. Out of nowhere, we can't find someone, something happened. Substitutes may come up. And I also want to bring up under instruction that, right now our classes are online, remote, hybrid. There are a few classes that might meet on campus for a lab, very small amount of those. So I want everyone to also understand that environment, that if you're not comfortable, and I know we're going to get into this in a little bit, is that if you're not comfortable in that online or remote environment, this is a great time for you to start working on that in building. The other positions are also non-instructional. And I think Dean Valadez just said to me, was it this morning or yesterday? He said, while we are on this hiring freeze, what we see is we do have some positions that we've been hiring for adjuncts as well, and maybe the non-instructional areas, perhaps in counseling. We have also a numerous amount of non-instructional. Sometimes we'll hire for some librarians, et cetera, some of those things as well. So that is kind of the foundation of where we're headed today. I am not the focal point. These other individuals are. And if we can go ahead and move to the next slide. I think at this point, I am going to turn it over to our chair of chairs, the phenomenal Ms. Nadia Mandilawi.
Hi, it's nice to be here. Thank you for having me. My name is Nadia Mandilawi, and before I started, I just want to give you a little bit of a context on my story. I started here as a tutor in the English Center when I was in graduate school. And then after I graduated, I worked as an adjunct, and then I became a full-time professor. And then in addition to teaching in the English department, I'm also the chair of English, ELAC, Philosophy, Humanities, and Labor Studies. And I also serve as chair of chairs, which is an elected Senate exec position. And in this position, I kind of work alongside the Senate president, and I work closely with administration and other various bodies on campus, and kind of serve as a representative or liaison of sorts for the chairs. So I've been lucky to kind of get to know and collaborate with many folks across campus in this role. And I have some notes here to kind of help me along just to make sure I get all the information out. So I guess that I wanted to talk a little bit first about, I added myself to the adjunct pool, what's next. I just wanted to let you know here that the first thing that you really want to do at our school is submit your application to the adjunct pool, which department chairs have access to, and they're going to use when trying to hire. That's through HR. And then I think that also after you do this, it's important to know that there's more you can do to let us know that you're interested in working at City. I wouldn't assume that just because the application's been added to the adjunct pool that it will necessarily come across a chair's lap. So I don't think that it hurts to contact the chair and to find out, their process. A short email letting them know you've applied, that you want to, and that you might be interested in chatting with them, this kind of thing, that you're interested in City, I think could go a long way. So that's kind of one of the little mysteries. I think sometimes people might add themselves to the adjunct pool and then sit around and and maybe end up waiting. And so I don't think it hurts to reach out and just try to let them know that you've submitted and you're interested. So just try to be proactive there. The next thing I wanted to talk a little bit about is navigating and understanding the adjunct hiring process. And I can just talk a little bit based on my own experiences. So at this point, I would say there isn't a uniform way at City for hiring, adjuncts. What is uniform is that adjuncts should submit to the hiring pool, and chairs should use this pool. I can say that in my department, we regularly check in on the pool and try to make this a habit, whether we have the opportunity to hire or not. If we're hiring, we'll tend to reflect on our department needs and our vision and take it from there. As Tilly and Roberto talked about, we have a really diverse student body. A large part of our vision at this point includes bringing faculty on who mirror our students. And once we've selected people, we invite them for an interview. And the adjunct interview is often conversational. And the adjunct interview would include me and my co-chair and my dean. And we'll set aside a couple hours on a day and we'll interview people and we'll ask them some questions. We might ask them for a sample lesson plan as well. And we're really trying to use this interview as a chance to get to know the candidate and try and learn about what might not always make it into the CV or on the HR app. We try to ask questions that reflect our department values and goals, as well as the school at large. And so again, I think that being proactive and gaining an understanding of both the department and the school at large that you're interested in applying to is very vital. I would encourage you to learn their goals, their vision, try and learn their language and the ways in which they're talking about equity and diversity, and see how you fit in, trying to gain an understanding of the context and trying to illuminate your potential and what you can bring to the table. I think that is a really important step, and that any way that you can to let them know these things about yourself would be really important. Also, to learn about what these schools and departments need and how you can contribute, and don't shy away from making this visible. And I thought about this as I was preparing this presentation, and I think that was a mistake for me in a way. I'm Iraqi. I never thought to bring my culture in. I never talked about it until I applied here, when I was coached and I was kind of told it was an asset. I'm still learning how to talk about it, how to articulate how it informs the choices I make and who I am in the classroom. But I do think reflecting on who you are and how your lived experiences inform you as a colleague and a teacher is important to share. At City, I can say, that we care about these things, and increasing diversity is a goal for many of us. So I really would encourage you to let us know these things about yourself. Find a way to bring it in and to really reflect on and think about how it informs you, how your lived experience informs you. And also, again, just reiterating not to be afraid to contact the chair directly. Try to set up a quick meeting or a stop by during their office hour, I think could go a long way. Something that would go a long way with me is, once you've put the application in the pool, a short email, a paragraph or a few lines letting me know you've applied to the pool, why you want to be a part of City in the English department. Can I stop by to chat? I'm very open to that. It's really nice when people stop by and, we end up chatting and they learn a little bit about City and they learn a little bit about the department and, what we're about. So I encourage that. I welcome that. I love that. So I would think that would be something that could be important when you're thinking about applying. And then every department and school, really school too, just all the different schools has their own process. So I think it's important that you take the lead on learning about it and you just try to be as proactive as possible. It's a delicate balance between, feeling like you're doing too much, but also finding a way to authentically and genuinely get yourself out there so that the chairs can put a face to a name, this kind of thing. And, I have to say too, that a lot of it tends to be word of mouth. Like, I know my co-chairs at my sister schools, faculty know each other as well. We try and help each other out. But I do have to say that that if I do hear about someone word of mouth, again, we just really make it a part of our practice to always try and follow that process. Going to the pool, is that application in the pool? Once that application is in the pool, thinking about what we need, what we're really wanting, and then reaching out and taking it from there. That's just become a really important part of how we do business in our department. And I've been really happy with the results. So that's been good. I wanted to also talk a little bit about minimum qualifications. I just wanted to say here, just to make sure to look at minimum quals to see if you meet them. And if you don't, you can always inquire about equivalency. For community colleges, a master's or equivalent is needed. And you should also make sure that that master's is in the discipline you want to teach in. So if you have a master's in a different discipline, you may have the option for equivalency, but it's going to depend on the classes you took. And you would go through a process which involves HR, the chair, the dean's office. So for instance, to teach English at City College, you would need a master's in English or an MFA in creative writing, discipline specific. A master's in education isn't going to really help. And then also, you know, what you do need is a master's degree, not a PhD. And a PhD, you know, doesn't necessarily make you more competitive. Because to work here means that you're interested in teaching, not necessarily research. We want people who are interested in being a part of what we have to offer, you know, and it's specific and unique. And, you know, that's kind of how it happens for a lot of us. The last thing I just want to touch on a little bit is the full-time contract process. And just to point out quickly that it's way different, right? What I've outlined above is a little loose when it comes to being able to hire adjunct faculty. With full-time faculty, the process is tight. There's rules, there's regulations that are followed, and it's a different game. And I know that HR will talk about it, and I think other panels will be devoted to it as well. But, you know, I did just want to say that that committee is made up of a chair, colleagues from the department, or a sister department if a department's small, as well as an EEO rep and the dean. Several rounds are involved. The first round is like an online application with supplemental questions. And it's very important that you really try to do your best with each of these rounds. Each application is scored based on how well you meet the criteria. So you have to look at the minimum and the desired qualifications and make sure that you try to answer how you know, what you have to offer when it comes to those things. And it's all scored, and it's scored in isolation. We don't talk about candidates. We don't know who's applied until we have access. We come together for a scoring meeting. We pick applicants that we would like to interview, and then we go on to another round. And then that first round is wiped. And in the new round, that is, it's a pretty formal interview. There's no dialogue. It's a candidate coming in, responding to a series of questions, and usually doing a teaching demo. And then after that round, you know, 2 to 4 applicants are sent forward to the president for a final interview. So in the English department, when a position comes up, we tend to have about 200 applicants, and about 10 to 15 of them will go on to the second round. And each department is very different. And I think that the departments with adjunct faculty, with full-time faculty, we're looking for the best fit in that particular moment. It changes depending on who's retired, where the holes are. We reflect on what we need moving forward. And so I think it's important too, as an adjunct, you know, one of the best things you can do to ensure a contract is that, you know, you give it your best. You're professional, positive, there for students and colleagues. You care about equity, you care about diversity. Every day that you're there working alongside people in the department is really a chance for them to get to know you. And we are very committed, I think, to the adjuncts that we hire. Our department's very big, and so when adjuncts are hired, we often pair them with a mentor in the department. We really try to work hard, we invest, and we try to work hard to help them learn about City College, our students, who we are, who we're trying to strive to be. And and just familiarizing them and bringing them in, making them part of the family really tends to be the culture, how we try to conduct ourselves in our department. So I hope that helps. I'm here to answer questions later, and I just wish you luck, and I really appreciate having the chance to be here.
Hi, good morning. My name is Jalen Ramirez. I'm the HR technician for City College, and I'm happy that everybody is here today. Today, I'll be going over a few processes for adjunct hiring. Next slide. So for here, I'll be going over the steps how to apply to be an adjunct, the adjunct hiring process, and salary advancement information. Next slide. So when you want to apply to be an adjunct, you want to navigate over to our SDCCD jobs website. From here, you'll be able to create a user account to begin the application and search for that specific job posting to be an adjunct. Next slide. Here is our homepage. You'll want to navigate to the middle of the page where it says college faculty positions for part-time substitute adjunct positions. And it's also important to note under useful resources, we have all that information that you'll need to apply as an adjunct. Next page. When you click into the the substitute adjunct link, you'll be able to search from all the postings for that adjunct position, and you'll be able to locate all the information for the adjunct posting. Next slide. Within each job posting, you'll be able to see all the major responsibilities, the minimum qualifications needed for that position. It'll also include supplemental questions that are geared to that position, as well as customary information such as pay range, working conditions, conditions of employment, etc. Next slide. And as Nadia mentioned, minimum qualifications are important when applying to be an adjunct, and you want to make sure that you meet those state minimum qualifications. And this is located under use for resources, and it'll have the link where you'll be able to scroll through the PDF to make sure that you do meet those state minimum qualifications, and if not, you'd be able to apply for equivalency. Next slide. So for our online application procedure, we want to emphasize that resumes will not be considered in lieu of the application. So please make sure that you complete each section of the application. And this is just good practice for contract positions as well, because from there we have special instructions. We want to make sure that all candidates understand the process and that this is being screened, and you don't want to be screened out just because you put refer to resume, refer to cover letter. Make sure that you include all your work history and all your education. Make sure all the fields are completed, all the dates, all the drop downs will be there for you to navigate through each section. And we just want to remind you that personal information is retained online indefinitely, and that adjunct applications can be updated at any time by just contacting our office after you submit. Next slide. So once you submit your application, you make sure all your documents are there, your letter of interest, your references, you certify and submit online. A confirmation number is submitted to your email after you've successfully applied. And this is important because this is your proof of submission. So please retain this email for future reference. Next slide. So if you do not meet minimum qualifications, you want to make sure that you fill out the application for equivalency, and this can be found under useful resources. Make sure that you have all the information there and that you answer all the questions as needed to supplement your application. And then you submit this with your application under the documents. And if you have a foreign degree from colleges or universities outside the US, please make sure that you complete a foreign degree evaluation and that this is also submitted with your application. Next slide. So for adjunct applications, we keep them within our system for 1 year, and they are active for 1 year. The applicant will receive an auto email once it expires, and then you get another invitation to reapply. And from here, you will need to contact the employment office to reactivate your application. And this is a good opportunity for you to update your information, your education, anything that makes you stand out if anything changes within that year. And remember that incomplete applications will not be considered for interview. Make sure that you have all the information there. As previously mentioned, you want to make sure that you don't put NA or refer to cover letter, refer to resume. Next slide. So a few application do's and don'ts. Many times, a lot of people just skip sections of the application. They don't fill out their employment history or their education history because they just assume that you'll be able to see that in your resume or letter of interest. But we encourage everyone to please complete those sections for good practice. And just a reminder that no photos or images should be on your resume or your cover letter. And when submitting your letter of interest, make sure that all the information is correct. Make sure that you're applying to City College, that you're referencing the right department. Many times people have just a standard template and forget to change out that information. So just want to make sure that you sound professional and that you're showing interest in applying to City College. As for your references, make sure that all the information is up to date, their title, their email, their contact information. So if the department does want to reach out to them for references, they'll be able to contact them directly. And please make sure that you answer all the supplemental questions included within the application, just to make sure that you stand out and that it's a complete application. Next section. After submitting for the next steps, once you certify and resubmit, you can't make changes to your application. You'll have to contact the employment office to reactivate your application to make all those updates and changes. And then what Nadia had mentioned is just best practice. So you want to stand out. You don't want to just blindly apply. So you want to make sure that you contact the department and let them know that your application is there and create that relationship with them. Next slide. So for adjunct hiring, after the interview, the hiring manager or designee will contact the applicant for the interview. After the selection has been made, the department will go ahead and submit all the paperwork to the HR department for processing. And then the department will also be in charge of onboarding the adjunct hire. Once the campus has verified the live scan fingerprint clearance and the TB test clearance, the campus forwards their hiring packet to HR for processing, which also includes the initial salary placement. Equivalency requests are processed at the campuses and an approved form must be completed with the hiring packet, and then it's forwarded to HR. Equivalency should be infrequent because applicants should be meeting those state minimum qualifications, but HR does review and approve those files once we receive them. Next slide. So one important thing to get everything ready for your application once you have been hired is ordering all your official transcripts and your verifications of employment. This is important because this goes towards salary placement as well as making sure that you have all the information that you had listed within your application submitted to HR. An important step after hiring is also scanning or scheduling a live scan. DOJ for California and FBI for residents who live outside of California. And this can be done at any live scan location or through our college police, and you can schedule an appointment directly. As for the TB test rules, make sure that they're no more than 60 days, and chest x-rays are valid for 1 year. And then these can also be transferred from another California educational institution that's valid for 4 years. Next slide. So once you've been hired, we receive all your information. We make sure that you have your verifications of employment, all your official transcripts, and then it gets sent to compensation in HR, where they'll go over a step and grade advancement as well for your initial salary placement. Your verifications of employment are very important. And as I mentioned, everything that you've listed within your application should be included in your personnel file. And salary placement increases through courses and professional development. And this can be done at the campus through the Professional Development Committee. Whenever you take additional courses, you attend seminars, these convert to units so you can advance when it comes to your salary placement. Next slide. So if you have any questions for your HR, if you have any concerns, you can contact us at any time. We can go through the application process with you. We can let you know what sections are incomplete before you submit, or if you've submitted your application, we can go ahead and reactivate that for you to make any additional changes. So thank you, and just let us know. We'll be available afterwards for any questions that you may have regarding the application process.
Hi, everybody. I'm sure, oh, I was like, Georgina. Hi, everybody. My name is Nisha Savage, and I'm the Dean of Student Development and Matriculation here at City College. I also oversee the Personal Growth Program, which is an instructional program. And so Georgina, do you want to introduce yourself? Our Department Chair, Georgina Garcia.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Georgina Garcia. I'm Department Chair of our Counseling and Personal Growth Department. I may have to put my video on mute because my internet's wonky. So, but I did want to at least introduce myself. Welcome.
And so we were asked to come and to talk about how do we increase the diversity pool within our faculty pool. And so honestly, we can only speak from the perspective of what we do in our own department. And I know that each department has their own process, and obviously you have to take into consideration what the CBA says. So we are a highly mandated and regulated educational institution, so you can't just create your own processes. So we make sure that whatever we do, that it does align with what the CBA says. In terms of adjunct hires, which is what this presentation is about, there's a lot more flexibility, I would say. Georgina, would you agree? With being able to manage, who and how you're bringing folks in. So for instance, in general counseling, so we always treat our departments separately. We have our counselors, our counseling adjunct pool, who are counselors who are providing career, educational, and personal counseling services to students. And then we have our adjunct pool for our personal growth instructors. So those are separate. And per the CBA, at the adjunct level, you want to make sure that you have the subject matter experts involved in that process. So in other words, when we're hiring for counselors, we have a subcommittee that's led by our department chair, Georgina. And then there are other counseling faculty who are part of that subcommittee who will review applications that are submitted in our adjunct pool, which is done through the district office. And then they have a mini interview panel where applicants that are chosen come in and interview before the panel. From there, they make a recommendation for hire to me as the dean, because again, just going off of the dean, the manager having the right of assignment, the recommendation comes to me, and I don't think that there's ever been a time that I haven't supported the recommendation, because I fully trust what our faculty are recommending. And so Georgina, did you want to add anything to the counseling piece of it?
No, I think everything that you touched on already is exactly what we do. I just wanted to echo what my colleague Nadia mentioned about definitely we want you to submit your application to the applicant pool on the district website. But if you're, to take the next step and communicate with myself or with our dean and express your interest. We definitely would want to hear from you. You could send us an email. And if you want to we also recommend that you send us a resume and cover letter as well, because we also have our own kind of pool that we keep track of and that we add resumes to. So take that next step and make that that contact with me specifically or with our dean.
And so in terms of, the difference between adjuncts versus contract, just to kind of back up a little, like I said, there's a lot more flexibility in the process for hiring adjuncts. And really, in terms of like, with our adjuncts, again, it's real interesting in counseling. I'll be honest with you. I think, and Georgina can attest to this, because, we've been here for a while. So for instance, I'll use English as an example. you have an English department. And so you know that all English faculty are going to be hired through the English department. You don't have like, you know, counseling deciding that we want to do an LCOM and we're like, oh, we want an English professor, so let's go hire one. It's a little different with counseling because, you know, we have had in the past, we've actually, I think it's gotten better, and you know, we don't do that as much now, but in the past there were situations where counselors were hired in various departments because they would write grants and write counselors into those grants. And so we could never really keep track of like where all the adjunct counselors are across the campus so that we can, you know, vet them. And so that's a unique situation that we have with we're trying to make sure that all adjunct counselors, when they come to us, that they're coming through the general counseling department or through our categorical program counseling programs. So we do have CalWorks, we have DSPS, we have EOPS, who are actual departments per the CBA. And so therefore they have their own internal process in how they hire their adjuncts and their contract counselors. And so we haven't gotten there yet, but I think the goal is to have, and Georgina, you can chime in, we would love to have one panel where all adjuncts who are applying to become a counselor on our campus, whether it's with EOPS, DSPS, CalWorks, or general counseling, that they interview through this panel of experts who are representatives from the general counseling department, from EOPS, DSPS, and CalWorks. Once we're able to do that, I feel like we will, you know, be able to ensure that everybody, all the counselors who are coming in are vetted, number one, by subject matter experts, and that they are provided with the, you know, with the training and, you know, evaluation per the CBA. Georgina, did you want to say anything about that?
Necessarily, I completely agree. I think we all do really well in working together as colleagues and helping each other out. We meet once a month as a giant all counselor group to support each other, share best practices. And so I think just having a search committee where we're all involved is just kind of the next progression for that.
Right. I would agree. I do feel like, you know, ever since we started having the all counselors meeting, I do see a more unified front with our counselors within our categorical programs and general counseling, which is amazing because that's only gonna, for, you know, better services to our students because they're sharing the same information. And so in terms of the adjuncts, again, we can speak to general counseling. You know, you would turn in your application through the district, you know, application pool. And as Georgina is saying, you should also send your resume and an email to the department chair. I would say not to the dean, to the department chair, because at the adjunct level, again, it really does kind of fall under the purview of our subject matter experts led by Georgina and a small subcommittee of counselors who will sort of vet the applicants and then send forth a recommendation for me to hire. So that's adjunct. The contract, the difference between the process for adjunct and contract, again, adjunct is a lot more flexible with hiring for a contract position, again, highly mandated and regulated process. And so again, you know, usually there's a call that goes out, right? And you can, you know, see our announcements on CC Apply and actually on our district website. You actually apply through that process. And then there's a whole committee that is put together through our shared governance process. So you, you know, have, again, subject matter experts represented on the committee. And typically you'll have a manager who probably would be in that person's reporting line. And also, you know, we try to make sure that we are representative of our classified professionals and even our supervisors who would be working with the contract faculty member. And so you have this panel that can be as small as 5 and as big as 13, right? And so once you put your application in through the district pool, that committee actually has to screen the applications and decide who they're gonna you know, recommend to come for an actual interview with the interview committee. And again, that process, because it is, like I said, the contract process is more mandated and regulated. Our HR department in our district really handles that piece. So whoever's chairing that hiring committee works extremely closely with the HR rep that's assigned to that actual process. And so the HR department would be the person to contact you to let you know, hey, you've been selected to come to an interview, select your time that you want to come, and then you come to the interview. And then there's an actual scoring process, right? The questions are actually have to be approved by our president, by the panel. And so again, highly regulated. And so that process, obviously what would be ideal is that we are preparing our adjuncts for that contract process, because the adjunct process is, like I said, is a lot more flexible. And so, one of the things that we, we've talked about in the past, but again, because there's legal implications, we've tried to see how we can prepare our adjuncts so that they're ready for that contract process. We haven't been able to quite figure out how to do that yet, because again, we've been told that you can't really do that because it provides an unfair advantage to outside applicants. But what we can do is, when our adjuncts interview through our adjunct process, you assign folks mentors. So when folks are hired through general counseling, they're assigned a mentor and they have training for an entire year. That mentor can provide professional development mentoring, where they can provide helpful feedback on how to get through the hiring process. There's also other things that adjuncts can take part in. If you're not familiar, we have a SEDICA internship program that also helps with, preparing adjuncts to be ready for the contract hiring process. And I believe our AFT union has also maybe have had some training, so you should look into that as well. And so again, the difference between adjunct and contract is one is a lot more regulated and mandated, one is more flexible. The ideal situation would be who we're hiring through our adjunct pool. They are also, prepared to be an applicant or one of the ones that we select to interview for contract. Okay, so yes, counselors, I'm looking at my notes, sorry. Georgina, did you want to say anything? I feel like I'm talking a lot.
I just wanted to talk about the interview process itself in terms of either adjunct or if you're interviewing for a contract position. Just the biggest piece of advice I can give you is when you come in for the interview, make sure that you share everything that you can about, that pertains to the questions about your experiences. Don't rely on us looking at your resume for information. And especially don't rely on if you happen to know people on the interview committee, because I've noticed that the counselor world in San Diego County is pretty small, and a lot of people know each other, right? Either from previous adjunct positions or you went to college with them. So I strongly just don't assume that people know everything about you. If you do know somebody in the interview committee, just pretend like that we don't know you at all. So just make sure that you share everything you can about yourself. And don't assume that we're relying on a resume or anything else to fill in the gaps if you happen to have missed anything. So that's just the biggest piece of advice that I can share with you.
So, I think really how to prepare for an interview for a contract position is a whole separate presentation on phone. So, but again, just kind of going back, because I'm looking at some of the notes and what they wanted us to cover. So just to be clear, there are counselors who are assigned across our campus, because we have general counseling and then we have our categorical programs, which obviously you have to qualify to be in those programs. So we have the EOPS program, which are for our first generation low income college students, as well as CalWorks, which are for students who are receiving public assistance. And then we have DSPS, which are students who might have a disability or need additional accommodations to support them through their learning. But regardless, because again, we are a unionized district, the cool thing is that we have the stuff written down for us, so we're not guessing. Adjuncts and general counseling are working have the same contract hours as a counselor who's working in EOPS, CalWORKs, or DSPS. The same is true for adjuncts. So again, you know, your contract mandates your number of hours that you work as an adjunct and the number of hours that you work as a contract. For adjuncts are, you know, so I've been a dean now for 3 years, you know, and so, you know, obviously your dean, it's based on budget and program need, right? I'll start with that. And so we always, in general counseling, our need is always great. And so when I became the dean, I, you know, was working with my department chairs, and they were saying, well, you know, what could we put our adjuncts loads to? Because traditionally it was always at a 0.4. And I was like, but we need them at a 0.5, right? We need them at a 0.5 or higher because there's a great need. And so we put our adjuncts in general counseling at a 0.5, which also allows for them to get benefits through our district as adjunct faculty. So I was blessed enough as an adjunct, you know, I was a counselor prior to becoming the dean, and I had benefits, and I also, you know, was a parent. So that was something that I was appreciative of. And so we do have our adjuncts at a 0.5, which is, like I said, 15 hours a week. And then our contract counselors work 30 hours a week. Georgina, did you want to add anything?
Nope.
Okay.
And
that's consistent. So you don't have, what's consistent is the what the CBA says in terms of what your max load can be. And the max load is actually not a 0.5, it's a 0.67. But you won't have adjuncts in general counseling working like a 0.8, and then EOPS, they're working a 0.67. We make sure that we follow the contract. We have counselors also located, assigned in our career transfer center. Those counselors are actually a part of general counseling. So again, the hiring happens through our general counseling department. I don't know, am I missing anything? I'm like reading the notes that Dan sent me. Is there anything else that I missed or that I can, you know, answer for folks? Any questions? Or Georgina, do you have anything?
no, that was it. Just thank you for joining us today, and we'll look forward to hearing from you hopefully very soon. I think there's a question and answer session towards the end of the webinar.
Yes, Georgina, thank you. I was just going to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. So then we're done.
Thank you very much.
Hola, buenos días a todos. Es un placer estar aquí con ustedes. Good morning, everybody. I'm Dr. Norel Martinez. It's a pleasure to be here with you this morning. I am assistant professor of English. I'm beginning my 3rd year as a tenure track professor. Prior to that, I was an adjunct at San Diego City College for 2 years. I also am a product of San Diego City College. I was a student there. I transferred to UCSD from San Diego City College. I got my AA from San Diego City College. And I also worked at San Diego City College as an English tutor. So I'm coming from a place that's pretty unique, and I understand that as well. But I feel like I can offer insight to those adjuncts that haven't necessarily had my experience. I was able to make connections, and a lot of my mentors when I was a City College student are my mentors now as a professor. You know, they were my teachers when I was a student, and now they're still my mentors, but now my colleagues as well. However, a lot of the things that I still had to go through the process that everybody else had to go through. So it's not like I had kind of a unique, I didn't have a special privileges, I guess you could say. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how to get an adjunct position at San Diego City College. A lot of the folks that have already presented stated a lot of things. I don't want to repeat that. That was great advice. But maybe what I can add to that is that you can start while you're in grad school. maybe I would advise, not waiting until you're done with your master's program, for instance, and then trying to get adjunct positions, but start looking, start making connections, start reaching out. For my situation, I was in a PhD program, so I got my master's on the way. And so I was still a grad student. And when I started adjuncting, because I had already gotten a master's. So I know for master students, it's a little bit different because you can't get an adjunct position unless you have a master's. But regardless, I think you could still start to look around, start reaching out, start emailing the chairs of your departments. But I would also suggest ask other faculty too in the department, email other faculty. Our contact information is on the website, it's public. And also other adjuncts, so like somebody said before, San Diego's it's a small world and in the world of education. So like for instance, when I was a grad student, I had colleagues who were also grad students that were already adjuncting at community colleges in the area. And so we would share information. They would say, oh yeah, this school's hiring adjuncts. Or when I was an adjunct at City, I would tell my other colleagues, hey, like apply, get your application into the adjunct pool. So that's also something that you can do to start making connections, start reaching out, not just the people who are going to hire you, but just the people that are already in, talk to other people, etc. So that can be a way to get some good information. And also just making connections, not just through just reaching out, emails, etc., but also try to attend events. I would really make an effort to go to the campus and attend events, especially events hosted by the departments. I know right now it's different, but it's more difficult. But when you're there at events, you can start to get to see the culture of the school, the students who attend those events, etc. So I would say that's another way to also get to know the school better, but also you can introduce yourself to people there and start to have a presence. Anything else? Next slide. Thank you. So this is once you get your adjunct position, but I would still say it applies if you haven't gotten an adjunct position and you want to stand out. So the first and foremost, as Nadia mentioned before, teaching, this is a teaching institution, so pedagogy is key. Other people after me are going to talk more specifically about what that means, and especially at City College and our students in particular. So I'm not going to get into that, but start getting good at teaching, and we all know that in master's programs and PhD programs, very few of us get trained in teaching methods, right? We're mostly trained as researchers, or we become specialists in our fields. So we have to kind of figure that out on our own, right? So attend professional development workshops. If you're already an adjunct, attend as many professional development workshops. If you're not, I know that a lot of folks post flyers for professional development workshops. When speakers are coming to our campus, we post them on social media, and I invite a lot of people who don't teach at City to come. And so nobody's going to be there going, "Oh, you're not an adjunct here." No, everybody's welcome to come. So I would say, try to find out what's going on, what workshops are happening, attend those. That's also another way to make connections. Ask seasoned faculty for their syllabus, for their lesson plans. Share your syllabus with them and your lesson plans with them. Ask for feedback. I think one of the most important things for us in the English department is that we, like Nadia said, we really are big on mentorship, but we also want to see that that adjuncts are open to that feedback and that are taking our feedback into consideration. So this is a good way of saying, hey, look at my pedagogy, look at my syllabus, look at my lesson plans, give me feedback. I want to learn, I want to grow. And I personally wanted more people to come and observe me, even if it was like for 15 minutes. And I put in parentheses, this is a non-official evaluation because we do have official evaluations. So that where like you actually get evaluated and they fill out a form and meet with you. I mean, that's another process, but this is like a more informal formal observation. I think that would really be helpful too, just so different people can offer feedback. There's different lenses and different approaches. People approach pedagogy in different ways, and it's just another way of growing. And then finally, research, right? As grad students, we know what that means. And we never stop growing and we never stop learning. And there's always really interesting stuff out that's getting published. And so I would just continue to go and look at, read as much on pedagogy as you can, just to continue to grow and to learn. And like I said, this is whether you already are an adjunct or whether you want to become an adjunct, because when you go into that interview, for the adjunct interview, you are going to have to show a lesson plan. It depends on the department, but for our department, you have to show a lesson plan, talk about the books that you sign or the readings. So you want to be ready and talk about your pedagogy and your approach. Next slide, please. And so finally, this is again for just those of you that are adjuncts already. But like I said, this definitely will be helpful for those of you that are wanting to get an adjunct position at City. Part of learning about the institution is also thinking bigger outside of the department, and then thinking more campus-wide and then district-wide and then statewide, because these things impact us as faculty, they impact our students. All of this is interconnected. And so the priorities and the culture of for instance, of our department is gonna sometimes depend on what's going on at the state level. So if you're an adjunct, I would really encourage you to attend our department meetings, your department meetings. I know sometimes we're scheduled to teach during the department meetings, and we can't do anything about that, but try your best to at least attend some. That's also a way of putting yourself out there. Attend the, like I said already, events, department meetings, join committees. At San Diego City College, we're very open and encourage adjuncts to participate on committees. That's one of the first things I did when I started adjuncting. I joined a committee, and there's committees that don't require a lot of your time. My first committee, I was like, I think the committee met a few times a semester, like 2 or 3 times a semester. So that was doable for me because I was still in grad school and I'm a parent, etc. So even just like look around and see what committees might be a good fit for you. That's also a way for you to meet people, but also for you to start understanding the culture, the priorities, etc. Also just school, so department meetings is one thing, but then the school meetings, and where you can meet the deans, the VPs, the president there, you start to sort of thread together the different moving parts that are going on institutionally, which even full-time faculty are still learning. Like this is my 3rd year, I'm still learning these things, but it's a great way to start getting an idea of like what's going on, etc. Right? For instance, there's a hiring freeze right now, right? So understanding what's going on district-wide can help you help you know where you're at as far as your chances, but also, prepare, etc. District meetings, like Board of Trustees meetings, Chancellor forums, those are a little bit more difficult to attend, even for full-time folks. But even if you just read the emails that are sent out by the Chancellor and the newsletters, you start to see what's going on district-wide with the budgets, etc. And then finally, the state is also, that's really important because that impacts us on the ground, right? And I just put a couple examples here. These are not the only ones, but like the most current issues right now on a state level are the guided pathways, AB 705, and then the funding formula has shifted as well. So now it's partly we're funded by performance-based funding. So those are just examples. I don't necessarily want to discuss those, but just that actually really helped me to get my full-time job when I was at the second round with the president and with the VPs. Because I'm making connections, not just with what I'm doing. I was making connections with not just what I'm doing in the classroom itself, but also like having an understanding of where I fit within this larger vision and within this larger system, right? So not just in the classroom, but also in my department, what I could contribute to my department, to the campus district, and then finally how I fit within the state's vision. So yes, thank you very much. Muchas gracias. Y I hope this was helpful.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? I'm not sure if I'm muted. Hello, everyone. My name is Hector Martinez, and bienvenidos todos. Gracias por su interés in City College. So I just want to welcome you all and say thank you for your interest here at City College. I want to talk to you a little bit about mentorship today. My position at City College is I am English faculty member. I also teach in the Chicanx Studies Department. I started teaching at City as an adjunct in 2000, in the year 2000. I was hired as a full-time faculty member around 2002. So I've been part of the college now for 20 years. And I really appreciate some of the things that Norel said, specifically in regards to culture. And so when we think about the idea of culture and people talk about culture, mentorship is really important, right? Getting to know the culture of the department that you're a part of or that you want to be a part of is important. It's kind of an abstract thing to say in some ways, but what I would say is, for example, I can speak to the culture of the English department. I can speak to the culture of the Chicanx Studies department. Our culture really is, we understand that City College is an open enrollment institution. We understand that our students come to us with, sometimes they come to us, maybe they're not the highest selected students. It's not like UCSD where UCSD has an admit rate of, 15% or 20%, and they select, the top of the class. Our students come to us sometimes, they're a little bit insecure, they're not sure whether they belong here. And it's our job as faculty members to help build them up, to help get them to the point where they can transfer. And we have brilliant students that go on and transfer to UCSD, UC Berkeley, to the Ivy League. I've had students who've been Ivy League transfers. And so our culture here in the department is to think of students as people that we can help. And we can think of in a very positive light and build them up, help themselves, help them take ownership of their education. Now, it's important to know that if you become part of our department, for example, and other departments and other colleges and other campuses might work differently. They might not be necessarily that kind of open to some of those ideas. So understanding the culture of the department is very important. Obviously through let me start my video. I'm sorry about that. So obviously through this, through mentorship, you can find out. The other things you can find out through mentorship are the processes of the department. So by processes, I mean, how does there, just very kind of logistic things, how does the department run? When I need to go for help for something, who do I ask? And in our department especially, we consider the administrative assistants as part of the department. They're part of our culture. And I give this advice to anybody who is a mentee or somewhat. I say, look, administrative assistants, they run the school. You know, you think of yourself, oh, I'm a faculty member, maybe I have a degree, a PhD or whatnot, or even our deans or whatnot. Without our administrative assistants, we're really nothing. So that's part of like the culture of the campus. That's part of the culture of your department. You know, getting to know things like that. This is why mentorship is important, to find those things out. And then curriculum is also something, obviously, that mentorship can help you with. So you have Norel, who talked about, you know, teaching and understanding that on our campus you have to teach and become a good teacher. So how do you do that? You need somebody, you need people to help mentor you in that sense. And that might just mean asking for a syllabus, or like Norel explained, having somebody come in and take a look at your class, sit in, give you some advice. And then there's everyday occurrences that happen in the classroom. Like what happens if you develop this beautiful lesson plan? You have 2 classes, 2 sections, you have a beautiful lesson plan, it completely works. You go to your second lesson plan, your second class using the same lesson plan, and the lesson falls flat on its face. Why? What happened? And so you come back and you know, you start to doubt yourself as an instructor or whatnot. It's good to have somebody that you can talk to about that, bounce those ideas off of, try to figure out what happened. So this is all part of the mentorship experience, I believe. And finally, I would think of how to find a mentor. So if you're looking for someone who could be a possible mentor, I would think of I can reflect back on my career, and there were people that were very instrumental in my career. The chair of the department, you know, there was even a dean that was a mentor. But I would think that maybe the people that are most instrumental might be a colleague that is not necessarily your chair, right? Because sometimes you feel like you can't be that open or whatnot with somebody who you kind of see as more of a supervisor than a colleague in some ways. So finding and reaching out to colleagues in the department, you know, full-time faculty who have maybe been through certain things in the department and that you can talk to, and they can give you some advice, and they're more seasoned, and you know, they've had the lesson plan that fell flat on its face, and they can tell you it's going to be okay. You know, sometimes you have to rework certain things, or they've had some other everyday occurrences. Maybe they've had a student, you know, in class who maybe seems like they're not really connecting, and so you're trying to reach out to them or whatnot. So I mean, there's really a lot to gain from mentorship, and trying to find somebody within the department that can be a person to bounce ideas off of, a person to be an ally, a person to explain different things to you, and that you can ask in confidence, hey, you know, how does this work in the department? How do these other processes work? So that would be, I think that can be very key. And even when you do get hired, if you do get a full-time position, you keep those mentorship relationships, you know, and it can really help you develop within the department. I won't say too much more. I won't keep you too long, but I do want to say thank you, and I appreciate, you know, your interest in our college and in our department. So thank you.
Gracias, Héctor. That was great. So, mi nombre es María José Celedón Pérez. So that is my whole name. It is one person and one person only, and that's me. I actually use my name a lot to teach about my culture. I am born and raised in Costa Rica. I came here as an immigrant. And I always have fun with the name in my classes, because even my students are like, wait, you have 4 words in one name? I say, yes, that is actually quite common in Latino cultures. So for all of us, we actually wear two last names, first the dad and second the mom. I hyphenated here in order for people not to separate my names, because names is part of cultural identity, and that matters to me, and definitely that matters to my students. So I wanted to introduce myself with a little bit of that, and also that I am an assistant professor here at City College in the Communication Studies Department. I coordinate the World Cultures program, and I also teach in the Puente program. I am very, very proud to be here. This is my third year as a full-timer, but just so you know, this is all about you, the adjunct. I was an adjunct for about 14 years in this district. So I know it took me a little longer than maybe a lot of people, but guess what? I never had a presentation like this one provided to me as an opportunity to learn the process. So I really was clueless in how it worked. I just wanted to work. I just wanted to impact my students at some level, to have the life that they want and deserve to live. So I'm very thankful for all of you that put this presentation together, because I think it does make a big difference for all of us that do want to make a positive impact for our students. My presentation is a little bit about the culture of City College, who we are, and really what I feel we are. And I like these visuals are important to me. I'm a visual learner. So with these, it really reflects what I believe of City College. This is who we are. Many of my colleagues, wonderful people, have really taught me so much more, not just teaching in the classroom, but outside of the classroom, and also how to be an activist, how to not just talk the talk, but actually take action and be an advocate for our students and our students' rights. So this is a little bit of what I feel. Next slide, please. Now, a lot of talk is in terms of teaching and pedagogy and how do we meet our students where they are. Because I am a communication studies expert, really, to me, it's all about the audience. How can we even begin to be good educators when we don't know who we are teaching to? So to me, it was very, very important to know who City College students are. As you can see in this slide, we have about 15,000 students in a semester, 21,000 in a year, but you can see a little bit of who they are. 35% attend college full-time, 35 out of 100 are first generation students. 70% of those students are between 18 and 29 years old, 55% female, 45% male, but then you see the ethnicity. So as you can see, we are widely diverse group of people, not just in the faculty, but also in the classroom. So it is very important that we pay attention. We have a large population of students with disabilities. We have groups of students and clubs that are very important for them and to validate who they are. We have City Scholars, Umoja, Puente, Hubu, ASG, EOPS Care, Next Up, Foster Youth, and of course, I forgot to CalWorks, so a big shout out to CalWorks. So again, very important as you're looking for colleges to go in, to educate, to teach, to provide your expertise, it's very important that you notice that every college has its own demographics, and the demographics is who we're working for, right? So City College is particularly diverse, which is one of the beauties and why it's a gift to teach at this college. Next slide, please. Again, this is to show you a little bit of who our students are. So how can we prepare? What are the implications for our teaching? Not just face-to-face, but now with this transition to online education. So just to give you a visual, out of 30 students, approximately 16% are Latinx students. That's why we're known as a Hispanic serving institution. Not just enrolling, but serving institution. About 21% are white students, 10% are African-American Black students, which is very important. We are one of the only double digits that have this amount of Black students on campus. Asian Pacific Islanders, Filipino, then others with multiple races, and of course the unreported. But what is meaningful is that 70% of our students are students of color. And as a woman of color, I am very proud to be in the classroom because In all my other experiences in the past, although the students were mostly students of color, there were very little amount of faculty that represented the students. And it is important that we are there because they see us and we see them, okay? And we work with them. So how does our culture, our communication style, our race, ethnicity, or nationality, even our technological ability or inability in this time of COVID impacts the way we teach our diverse student population? How can we connect at a personal level with them by embracing who they are, their cultural capital, their linguistic abilities, in their technological ability or inability, just like we are? Next slide, please. So something that City is big on is really not of course, always thinking student first, but in order for us to meet the students' needs, we also have to help each other. We also have to help faculty. So how can we humanize teaching? And humanizing teaching, although now it's all about online because we're during this transition, during this pandemic, we really had to adapt and accommodate to our student needs. But humanizing is whether you're face-to-face or whether you're online. That matters. And it is at the heart of good teaching in any modality. It is the thoughtfulness, vulnerability, creativity, empathy, awareness, passion, and presence that only we, the faculty, can bring into our teaching. So again, it's very important not only to get the job, but also how do we do that job well for our students, for the people that are sitting right there in our classrooms, making all these sacrifices to make their dreams come true. Next slide, please. So one thing that I love about City College, besides being extremely supportive to students, is also how supportive they are of us, faculty. So one thing that we put together, and this was actually the professional development advisory and the coordinator of professional development, Paula Miranda, that got together and created this summer academy for remote teaching to help us transition from face-to-face to online. Because as you might know, as an adjunct, sometimes, you know, we become experts in that field, that master's degree that we have, but the teaching piece, we have to really learn it through so many angles. And right now we thought, okay, we just have to worry about teaching in the classroom, face-to-face, physical. And now we have to worry, okay, how do we translate this online? Which is another world, not just for us as faculty, teachers, but also for our students. So the academy was really something that was intentional. It was developed to help us faculty humanize the online teaching and learning environment grounded in equity and social justice with a commitment to student access and success. We had 3 objectives: promising equitable practices, accessible, inclusive, and welcoming course shells, semester-long support and guidance through group mentorship, which is a little bit of what Hector was talking about, but this is also a little bit separate. So you'll see that there is mentorship from different angles. In terms of the beauty of this academy that I think says a lot about City College is that we didn't really go outside to look for people to mentor us. We actually ask in-house, who can provide mentorship? Who can teach other faculty? So the 19 presenters were all faculty at City College, not just full-time faculty, but part-time faculty were also teaching all these workshops. There were 6 mentors, and we had about 58 faculty participating in the entire program, and between 10 and 20 faculty members enrolled in individual workshops. And again, this wasn't just meant for full-time faculty. We always intentionally include adjuncts because you are part of this transformation that is happening in higher education. Next slide, please.
I can't hear any volume.
Hey, you're mute. Oh, hi, Justin. Good. So the beauties of using Zoom. Something important also is that we, City College, because I told you, there is such a movement, an activist movement. We have a social justice ad hoc committee, and they were heavily involved also in developing some of the workshops. And I'm very proud to be part of this group of people. So in this slide, you can see pretty much the entire academy. It took place during an entire week. And we had several workshops that were very meaningful and intentional because they were topics that really mattered to the students that we teach. So for example, there were workshops on working with an ethic of love, using assessment to celebrate student learning, not to punish or penalize, but to celebrate their learning. We were intentional in how can we connect with students constantly outside of the classroom? How can we support students with disabilities or different abilities, as I like to say? You just have a different ability. There was a lot of talk about curriculum trauma, about anti-racist and anti-deficit teaching practices in order for us to transform the online classroom into a welcoming, inclusive, and equitable space where our students feel safe and motivated to learn. Next slide, please. Now, an integral part of the academy, right, is what is the framework? How are we teaching? So of course, in terms of the humanizing online teaching framework, it's really about teaching from a culturally sustaining and responsive pedagogy, which Justin Aker will be presenting on that a little bit more in depth, as well as having social presence, applying universal design for learning and validating who our students are and meet them where they are. Next slide, please. An integral part of this academy was not only to learn from our colleagues, but the most important was to bring our students' voices, because they are the ones that are truly teaching them how to better serve them. So for example, these are 5 students that came into my workshop, not as guests, but as co-facilitators. So they actually wrote that workshop with me. Next. These are some equitable practices that were put into place after we took the workshop. So many of us just learned a lot of different techniques and a lot of different tools that we could use to really stay connected and provide the best education for our students online. So for example, a welcoming video is one of the most powerful tools for online education, where students feel welcome even before they start class, and they can see you. They can see that there is a human behind the screen. So in my Puente class, I provided a welcoming video in English and a welcoming video in Spanish. Then Suna Fadnes, which you will meet in a little bit, we did this whole workshop on how to create Canvas shells or courses that are easy to navigate, where students don't have to be constantly worried and confused of what to do next. So it was really providing easy access and easy steps for them to feel like they knew what they needed to do and how to do it. And also we provided all the resources that we could in order to really give them the information that they need to succeed. Another outcome was using a constant communication app that was embedded into the Canvas in the district, known as Pronto. And just to share what is my favorite tool that came out of the academy is by far Pronto. It is incredible how I was able to create a very supportive environment for the students outside of the classroom, where they use it constantly. Every day they send these little GIFs and they have fun and they send jokes, and they also ask questions about assignments. And when they cannot respond to each other, which mostly they do, I just jump in and share with them. So we really were able, or have been able, to create a community outside of the classroom that I'm very thankful for, and for the students. Next slide, please. Now, thankfully, I have Suna Fadnes here, and she created this program known as the M&M, which is Mentors and Mentees. And I would love for her to speak on this, if she can. Suna?
Hi, well, Maria Jose, thank you so much for inviting me to do this. I really appreciate that. As you guys have heard, there are multiple mentorship opportunities at City College. And as a former student, graduate of City, and as a former part-time adjunct instructor, and now a full-time tenured professor, I have been the benefit of mentorship. And when I got my full-time job, I was very fortunate to be able to work with a professor who I had worked with since I was a student at City, and he was able to mentor me. But as it turned out, it seemed like that was just a matter of luck. And I know many departments offer these sort of paired mentors. And one of the things that I thought was really important to do was to ensure that mentorship wasn't a matter of luck. And so I designed this program called M&M Mentors and Mentees, and it's run through the AFT, the union that protects your rights and ensures that you get paid. So in any case, Mentors and Mentees, like you see, it's designed to engage and support both SDCCD and GCCD employees. I know that we have a couple of folks from Grossmont here, so you've actually got mentorship happening on your campuses. Here at City, we have mentoring for contracts, classified, and for adjuncts, and we currently have 5 adjuncts going through the program. Paula Miranda, the coordinator for the Academy this last summer, actually asked if M&M would do some group mentoring, and so we actually expanded into group mentoring for the Academy. But for all the adjuncts who are here, I will just say I posted a link about M&M into the chat. If you are interested in a formal year-long mentorship program that both helps you acclimate to City with an eye towards how to position yourself for a full-time teaching position at a community college, please feel free to check out that link or email me. I don't want to take up too much time since I came in at the last minute, but I want to say thank you to everybody who's providing this great support for all of the adjuncts out there. Maria Jose, thank you so much.
Thank you. So now I'm just so grateful that you're here. And actually, I also have here in the meeting, we have Elva Salinas and Bree Kennedy, and I just wanted to give them a big shout out. Bree is DSPS and Elva is faculty. And we actually got together from this academy. There was an unexpected outcome, which is improving a survey that they had created before, and we put together what I did with what they did and Paula Miranda as well. And we improved this get to know you and more survey. And again, this is another tool, one of the most important tools of really assessing and retaining and building close relationships between faculty and students by using something as simple as a survey that provides students not only a welcome feeling and that I care about who you are, because we ask them specific intentional questions about who they are with their cultural capital, with everything they bring to the table. But also we ask them, what is it that you need in this class in order to be able to succeed? Also, we tell them about all the goodies, I call them, that City offers that they might not even be aware of. And we give them the specific contact information so they don't feel like they're just left out in the air. So we really are trying to be very intentional to provide everything the students need in order to feel welcome, validated, seen, heard, and helped through their journey here at San Diego City College. With this, I am going to pass it to Justin Akers, who is the chair of the Chicano Studies Department. Justin?
Okay. Yes, I'm trying to find my video here. One moment. Okay, I'm not sure why it's not working here. Let me switch. Hold on one second.
Slight technical difficulties. We're having to switch between a computer and a phone, so please bear with us. In the meantime, just some general announcements. As we get closer to the Q&A portion, we will be allowing participants to unmute themselves to ask questions. Please use the raise hand feature. It'll help me keep track of who is asking questions. You can also post it in the chat, and we can read it off the chat as well.
Get out of there.
Thank you. Alrighty, Justin, you good? Here, I'll go ahead and mute the other account, and then you can go ahead and speak through the one you're on with the video.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, sorry with my enthusiasm to be part of this. I seem to be pushing all kinds of different buttons. But thank you for inviting me to this important forum. And I want to start by saying that I was an adjunct from 2001 to 2005 when I got hired full-time at San Diego City College. And I think this was the probably the most important part of my career, was coming to San Diego City College, because of the expert and outstanding presentations we've already heard describing the character of our campus and students, and the importance of having culturally relevant content, that can meet the needs of our diverse student body. So when I was hired, I immediately experienced the significance of this subject. So I was asked to explain a little bit today, what does it mean to have culturally relevant curriculum? And I'm speaking from a Chicanx Latinx perspective. Next slide, please. So it's important that we recognize that regardless of which discipline you teach in or department, culturally relevant content is a way of teaching the specific curriculum of our discipline in a way that centers the culture, the identity, and the lived experiences of our students. And also, like Dr. Maria Jose, I am a very visual person. So I wanted to share with you this picture. This was from 2014, and this is a gathering of students, Chicano, Chicanx, Latinx students, and African American and Black students. This was a gathering in recognition of what was happening, events in Ferguson, Missouri, with the killing of Michael Brown. And also in that same period in Mexico, there was a high-profile case of the disappearance of 43 students who, like community college students at the time, were low-income, working-class students in Mexico who went to a school called the Normal, and who, which is kind of like a community college, and who were disappeared for protesting against budget cuts. And so this reflects that the way that who we're teaching are people who are very aware of the world that they live in, and whose lived experiences informs how they view the world. So whether it be in Chicano studies, Black studies, or math, we want to have an approach that makes relevant how we teach to who we teach, and use as much culturally relevant subject matter in order to deliver the content that we're teaching. But we also want to understand identity. We want to understand how students see themselves, how the population of learners that we're dealing with see themselves and understand themselves. And that requires a degree of complexity. We also want to bring lived experiences of our students into the classroom and package it into the content, so that students are learning not purely abstract information, but information that connects with how they see the world and how they live in it. Next slide, please. So pedagogy, how we understand how people learn. Methodology, how we actually teach using methods that connect with our students and their understanding. These are ways of teaching that affirm, that validate, and that utilize cultural phenomenon in the learning process. So for instance, in this picture, we have a beautiful photo of Chicano Park Day. San Diego City College is situated in the proximity of Barrio Logan. And every year there's a cultural celebration that recognizes and celebrates the history of the Chicanx, Latinx population. And this day, is a kind of living memory of the history. So as a history teacher teaching at City College, teaching Chicano studies, I bring Barrio Logan, I bring Chicano Park Day into the class so that students can understand the significance of events within the communities that we serve, the communities around City College. So pedagogy can include everything from understanding how to incorporate art and music into a history class. It can be to have a field trip to Chicano Park, which is the park that, which is the park in which Chicano Park Day is celebrated, which is right in Barrio Logan there. So there are various ways to sort of bring the community history, the community experience into the classroom. But also, regardless of how we teach, speaking to our students, using cultural indicators, using references to history and lived experience validates. And so it makes the students aware that they are seen, that their experiences matter, and that they're part of, their history is part of the process of how we learn and what we learn. And utilizing cultural phenomenon in the learning process is important. So from a Chicanx, Latinx perspective, for instance, within the culture, family is important and learning from elders. So bringing in how we learn, bringing in how we dialogue and communicate with our elders, bringing in ways in which that knowledge can be factored into what we're learning and how we're learning. Next slide, please. And to be very specific about the importance of culturally relevant curriculum, pedagogy, and methodology, we can look at the data and we can see that when students take classes that affirm their identity, when they take classes that incorporate culturally relevant projects, culturally relevant references, culturally relevant signifiers, it doesn't, not only does it not alienate them and feel that they're invisibilized in a process, but it does the opposite. It makes them want to learn more. It makes them more engaged. And so if we look at this data, this is from City College data, we see that this covers from fall 2015 to spring 2017. And what it does is it looks at the retention and success rates and GPAs of students who have taken 2 or more Chicana studies courses versus those who haven't. So if you look at, for instance, the first one, fall 2015, the first line, successfully completed 2 or more Chicana studies courses, we see the retention rate is 91% and the success rate is 77% and the GPA is 2.71. The next line below says did not successfully complete 2 or more Chicana studies courses, and we see the rates drop. And so again, the data affirms that students incorporated into a learning process in which they see themselves, better understand themselves, and see their culture and identity validated it translates into students doing better in all of their courses. And so this is why why we need to appreciate this approach. And for those who would like to teach, like me, when I started teaching as an adjunct and understanding the importance of this, for those of you who hope to teach, plan to teach, and want to teach, this is culturally relevant curriculum, methodology, pedagogy is a pathway to success for our students. It translates into improved rates of retention, success, etc. And it's important for us to have this dialogue, and I'll conclude with this. It's important for us to have this dialogue because you know, we often talk about many of our students being first generation students, which means the first in their families to go to college. I was a first generation college student. Nobody in my family had gone to college. And so that meant that I didn't have the same level of family knowledge that could be imparted to me to understand the importance and the, you know, even, you know, to understand the institution, to understand how to navigate it. I had family support and family love, and that was important. But as an adjunct, or as somebody who wanted to teach, I also didn't have that experience in terms of how to go through the process of navigating, how to apply. Everything that you're learning and will learn about today is really important. And so this is an affirmation that we need, you know, to really understand the needs of our students, but we also need to understand how we become successful and how we connect with them. And that ensures our success, right? Because our students' success is our success, and it's a reflection of the success of our institution as a whole. So thank you for allowing me this time to share some of this information. And I hope we enjoy the rest of the program.
All right, everybody.
Oh, go ahead, Daniel.
I was going to introduce you. Sorry about that. Welcome to our Q&A portion. Dean Marciano Perez and VP of Instruction Tilly Chavez will be leading it. You can go ahead and start posting your questions in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and allow folks to unmute themselves to ask questions, but please use the hand raise feature so I can keep track of who's asking what. Thank you so much.
All right. So I think I'm on. Bienvenidos. I'm happy that all of you are here with us today, and quiero dar las gracias a todos los que pudieron venir hoy a esta presentación y a todos los que presentaron hoy y dieron de su tiempo para estar aquí. So I want to thank everybody that took the time to come and be here with us today, and for all of us. Oh, sorry, someone just reminded me that my shutter was closed. But we want to thank everybody that took the time to be here with us. And again, we want to thank all of our presenters who also took time out of their schedules to come here and share their knowledge with you. Tilly and I wanted to also just maybe start a little bit before we get into this Q&A to share a little bit about our journeys and how we got to this place. So I spent many years in the UC system, almost 19 and a half years in the UC system before I took a job here at City College. This is the first place that I ever worked at where I was surrounded by people that looked like me, that spoke my language. I saw myself reflected in the students, and I saw faculty and classified professionals reflected in my colleagues, and that was not the norm that I had experienced in the UC system. So it took me some adjusting to being able to enjoy and experience City for all of the great things that it has. And in preparation for this presentation, I also had a little debate with Daniel and with Roberto about, was it puerta or puerta? Because as a Boricua, we tend to make the R's or L's. So hopefully I didn't butcher that too much. But we're really glad to see so many of you here in our presentation, Abriendo la Puerta, as we talk about the adjunct process. We also wanted to do a quick shout out to, we saw that Dr. Martinez was here in the presentation today, and many of us that are here are part of the NCCAC Fellows programs and are graduates of that fellowship program. So we want to do a little shout out to one of our great mentors, Dr. Martinez, who really set many of us up for success and helped us to become comfortable in our own skins, being able to share this experience. Tilly, I'll let you do your quick intro and then we'll open it up to questions.
Thank you, Marciano. Nice to see everyone again, and thank you. I can't thank everyone enough here on the panel You just blew my mind on everything that you presented. Was way beyond my expectations, and I should know better. But that's the city way here. And like Marciano, we have similar stories. As I mentioned earlier, my background is in nursing, and I've been a nurse for about 30 some years. And I was born and raised in Arizona. And so when I decided that I wanted to become a faculty member, and the reason I became faculty was I felt that the care that was being provided to the patients was lacking in some of the competency levels. I started questioning my colleagues and myself of the kind of care we were providing. So rather than complain, I decided to apply to the community college near my home and became a faculty member. And I was surprised, that I was an adjunct for one semester and then became a faculty member. And it was probably one of the most challenging things I've ever done in my life, because now you are super expert, right? I mean, I knew what I needed to do when I was at the bedside working with patients, but now to have to explain it and help people through that and save other lives, it just was really beyond. And I loved doing that for about 15 to 17 years. And I slowly worked my way into administration. As I continued in administration, I felt like I really needed to make a difference in the world. And one of the things I think that Justin had spoken about and several of other speakers had talked about was, what you come with and what you come from in your own home. I was raised in I was raised in a family where my father only went to the 5th grade. My mom was 8th grade. So education was important for them, for us. And they didn't know the lay of the land to help us navigate the institutions. So my dad said, there's the university, go figure it out, right? Kind of what Justin was saying. I mean, I wish we would have at least been able to hold each other's hands, Justin, so that we could get through it. But we make our way, and now we try to open the doors for others. And my father's generation was basically leave your culture at home. What happens at the house stays at the house. I think he created that saying before Las Vegas did, right? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So I would leave the house and become this person that I thought the world wanted me to be. And then I'd come home and I tried to relearn who I was. And this went on for so many years that actually it came a time where I was looking for a vice presidency position, because my goal is, at one time I thought maybe it would be a president. Right now, my goal is just to work at City College and help keep us on track. And if I'm the person that can help to be the leader to move things here, that's where I'm supposed to be. And I feel like that's where I am now. When I came to City College, and I'm going to call it Justin a little bit on that one, I remember with my interview, I was probably pretty evasive. Didn't give a lot about myself, what I've been learning and still learning. And I count on my colleagues here to also remind me to not be so closed and not share, because I feel safe at City. I feel this is a great place that you can do that. But it's also a lot of years that I have to combat of what I've been trained, that you don't share these things outside of your scope. And I have Dr. Riveras here, and I know he's heard me talk about this before, and he understands where I come from. That, it takes me a little bit. I will share those things. But as I was looking for a vice presidency position, I ended up deciding that I was in Arizona and I would apply throughout the United States. I thought, sky's the limit. Let's see what there is. For the first time in my life in looking for a job, because as a nurse, you don't usually have any kind of situations or problems to find a job. I was looking for a specific vice presidency, and I was surprised how many I was either not offered or how many interviews I was offered. And then the platforms might have been something like a Zoom or whatever other platform it was. And as soon as my video came up, the panel take their pencils, pens, put them down, cross their arms, and not be interested. It was difficult. It was very difficult to be in that kind of situation. And I thought to myself, I could get off this call right now, but gosh, you called me. I'm going to use this time and make it an example and just practice. So another part of the interview and getting through these roles and stuff is knowing yourself. And it took me a while to get to know who I truly am. And I will say that when I came to City College, I presented Matilda, Deanda, Artili, Chavez. I did not present the person I wanted or thought people wanted to see. And I truly believe that's one of the reasons why I'm here today. And one of the reasons that I don't have to hide behind anything. I can continue to evolve as myself here at City College. That's more than you all wanted to know, but it was a lot of interviews that I went through, and some people might be embarrassed to say what I'm going to say, but I rather quite proud that I've recognized that it's taken me some time to recognize who I am and who I want to be. And I had, over the course of 1 year, 19 interviews before I found the college I wanted to work at, and the college found me at the same time. There were many along the way that I have to say during the interview, after figuring out who I would be working with, I wanted to backpedal out of there as fast as I could. And that's important as well, to find out what the fit is for you. So that's probably more than you need to know or wanted to hear. Marciano, sorry if I went on too long. I'm going to kick it back to you.
No, you're fantastic. So I'm looking, I don't see any questions in the chat just yet. So.
Well, I have a question. I'm going to start some off because I'm Elva Salinas, and I want to make sure that everybody knows that don't be shy, right? Go ahead and ask whatever you need to ask, because now is the time. These guys are some heavy hitters we have on this panel. I know many of them personally. They have got so much information. So I'm going to start off with a question, and the rest of you need to come up with questions that you think would, that you'd like to ask somebody, but like you were afraid to ask, kind of a thing. So I'm going to ask right now of Tilly and Marciano, I'm going to ask you specifically, what is one thing that you really, really like to see in a candidate when they come in for their interviews? One thing that they could do.
Yeah, so I'll start, and then Tilly can maybe go. So I'm always looking for authenticity. One of the things that and I think you heard this over and over again today from several of our presenters. We want folks who can teach. We want folks who can who have cultural competency, who understand who our students are. I want someone that when we ask the question, why City College, they don't say because it's in San Diego and you have good weather, or you have or you have the zoo, or I've always wanted to live in San Diego, because that doesn't tell me about how our students are going to connect with you or how you're going to connect with our students. And so I'm really looking for folks who are able to share how they're going to contribute to the culture of San Diego City College. I want to know when we ask a question about what have you done in your personal and professional life to promote social justice, diversity, and inclusion, that folks have answers about things that they've done or things that they want to do. And I'm sorry, maybe it's just me, but saying that that I'm diverse because I'm Latino doesn't make you diverse, and doesn't give you a lot of points answering that question for me, and it doesn't demonstrate to me what your commitment to social justice is, because our students deserve folks that aren't just talking about things superficially, but folks that are actually doing work to make the college better for all students. So that's what I'm looking for.
You are so right on cue.
Thank you.
It's like you just took the words right out of my mouth, but I would echo that. I would also say that I look for stories, real passionate stories from people of how do they show that social justice? How has that been an example in your life? And sometimes people are like, what do you mean? And that's the point, is if you're just responding to the question, I want to see how you do that. How did you see yourself relating to the college? I love that question. Why City College? Somewhere somebody's going to ask that question. I have to tell you, in my own preparation, I live City College. I feel like I bleed City College. And before I even set foot on the campus, I imagined myself on the campus, walking up and speaking to each of you on the campus without you even knowing who I was. That, you know, in my mind, that was already there. And I think those stories, Marciano, like what you're talking about, is show me how and where that authenticity is. I also look to see, this is a secret part, I look to see when people are going to make eye contact with me and when they're going to smile. I know you're terrified in an interview, but that's that authenticity, right? To show when you can kind of just, it kind of gets you like okay, there you are, point. So Elvira, I hope that was what you were looking for.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
And it sounds like there's it looks like there's a question in the chat from Ashley that says, I have a few questions. The first one is, considering the competitiveness of applying for a full-time contract, do adjuncts ever choose to remain as adjuncts for the rest of their careers? And if so, is that a stable career option? And so maybe I'll let Tilly or Elva be able to maybe answer that a little bit better than I would.
Tilly, do you want to answer or do you want me to answer?
So I can tell you from my perspective, I have seen people become stay adjuncts for a long time, and that's their choice. So I'm going to see if you want to go ahead and move on beyond that piece, because I think you might have experience as well.
Well, yeah, I was an adjunct professor. I'm retired now, 2 years. I was 36 years at San Diego City College as a professor. I started in cosmetology as an adjunct professor. I was there for 6 years as an adjunct before, and 3 interviews or 3 job cycles before I was there full time. And then went on after 16 years in cosmetology, transferred into the English department. And then finished out my career there. There was a lot of other things that happened in the meantime that were pretty spectacular. I had a spectacular career. I'm now teaching part-time. I'm back as pro rata professor now. So one of the things that I noticed is that there are some adjuncts that definitely want to teach part-time. And they love teaching part-time. And there are ways to get yourself to be a permanent adjunct, basically. There's processes that you can follow in the different departments, and you'd have to talk to the department chair about some of those that you can do. It takes a few years to get yourself into that position. And that's a priority assignment. And so some people really like that. Some people really like being adjuncts, and because of other things that they have going on. Some people have other businesses. Some people are raising their children. There's a lot of reasons to stay adjunct. And then for full-time, it is very competitive. But I also know many of us that are here right now had to try many times to get in, but every time you go in for an interview, you learn so much. So don't give up if you really want to be full-time. There are a lot of colleges. Of course, San Diego City College is the best, according to all of us, right? But there are a lot of colleges, and I'd like to say we're a training school because we do so much professional development, and we are on the cutting edge of a lot of pedagogies and that. And so a lot of the adjuncts that train with us, work with us, end up getting full-time positions. So we have a lot of semillitas all over, well, really all over California. Some of the faculty that I've worked with and mentored are all over California now. So yeah, so don't give up if you really want the full-time, but if you want part-time, there is a way to make money and have a decent life. Yes.
So it looks like Bree Kennedy put DSPS profession needs you, your passion, your expertise, and your culture, and to broaden representation. And they're holding an information session on how and why to become a DSPS counselor on the 27th of October from 3 to 4. And she's included the Zoom link and the password in the chat. So any of you are looking to work in DSPS, there is that. Let's see. How many campuses do adjuncts work on before beginning to apply for full-time positions? And how can an adjunct find the right campus fit? Alva or Tilly?
I definitely, well, let's put it this way. Unfortunately, if you only get one class at one college, then you may have to do another class at another college. I have known some adjuncts that have taught 10 classes in a semester, driving all over the place. And all the colleges have different sets of rules and everything else, different things that they have to do for the campus, all the different professional development. I would definitely at least try one class at the different campuses and then kind of hone in on the one that you really, really feel the most comfortable with and that you really like. And then try to dig deeper into that campus and get as many classes as you can there. I do also know that I think we do have some faculty here that can speak a little bit to the differences between being an adjunct and being a full-time. I would, and I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, and I don't know if you're right there behind the screen right now, but I know Norel has some really wonderful things to say about the differences between teaching adjunct and teaching full-time as far as the workload is concerned. Norel, are you there right now?
I am, yes. Yeah, that's a great point, Elva. I would say that it is easier to work as an adjunct if you're not freeway flying. So if you do work at different campuses, that does take a toll, and a lot of adjuncts can attest to that. But if you're somebody that's like, I just want to work part-time, maybe your partner has a full-time job, maybe you don't necessarily need that full-time job. I would say that the responsibilities are a lot lighter when you're an adjunct. I remember when I was an adjunct, I taught 1 or 2 classes and I was getting super creative. And not that I'm not now as a full-time, but you just have so many more classes and more grading. And then you have to do committee work, etc. So when I went from adjunct to full-time, I could totally feel the difference. It took me a little bit to get used to it. It was a little bit stressful. So, I mean, it depends what people's life situations are. I will say that as an adjunct does have less job stability. And we're really lucky that we have the AFT and that we're unionized, that adjuncts are unionized, that to help protect workers' rights, your rights as part-timers as well. So it depends on the school that you teach, right? But I know for our district, we have a strong union and some really strong adjunct participation in that union. So that really does help with that kind of stability and workers' rights, etc.
And if Alva, if I can tap on that, just thank you, Norel. That was wonderful. And when I did teach, and it was in Arizona, granted, but when I was full-time during the school year, that's faculty. And then in the summer, we would function as adjuncts, right? So I actually worked in the Maricopa system, which there's 10 colleges there. And in that, I would loan myself out to other colleges so that I could see if I was still in the right college that had the right fit. I wanted to come back to that fit thing, right? And when I went over to different places, sometimes I would come back in about a day or two saying, oh, I can't wait till this assignment is over, because it wasn't maybe the fit, and it could be maybe that maybe it could be the values of it. It could have been a mixture of anything, but you won't know until you try. So I like what Norel said is that just even trying and getting yourself in a couple of them just to see, you're going to know when that fit is there. And I got to tell you, when you fit like a puzzle, it is such a wonderful, great feeling. So I think that's important. It's real important if that's part of your values that you look at.
Could I
Oh,
talk
very quickly, I just want to chime in here. Oh, I think
Suna.
I was already going to say, yes. But anyway, I was just going to say, make sure you connect with Suna. She wrote up there about the contract, and also as an adjunct, you can start paying towards retirement as well, and making sure that you do that the right way at the different colleges, because you can combine all of the different the monies that are going in through the different colleges, and some of them will automatically, and I know this happened to one of our adjuncts, will automatically put you into the wrong kind of retirement plan that you don't want. So connect with Suna about your contract, and go ahead, Suna. I don't know if you wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, I actually didn't want to talk about that, but I put in the chat something that AFT's Mentors and Mentees is holding a Know Your Contract workshop on October 14th. And if you'd like to come to that, just shoot me an email and I'll send you the invitation link and password. But I actually just wanted to throw in my 2 cents about sort of making that transition from adjunct to full-time and how to find a campus that works for you. I actually wasn't on the adjunct track for very long. I think I worked as an adjunct for about 2.5 years, and I was applying all over because I was in the fortunate position of being able to move anywhere I wanted. Now, not everyone's in that position, but because I was in that position, I applied all over the United States, and I got a job in Florida, a full-time job. And I just didn't know whether I should take it. And in talking with my mentor, he said, look, it will give you full-time experience. Even if it's not a perfect fit, you'll know what it's like to work full-time. You'll have that experience that will make you a better candidate for another position if you choose that if you figure out that you don't want that position. And so I actually ended up moving to Florida for a year. And no offense to any Floridians, it sucked. It wasn't a good fit for me. And I came back to San Diego and I started working as an adjunct again. But he was absolutely right, my mentor was, because it really gave me a better perspective for future interviews that I did for other full-time positions. I interviewed in Oregon, in Washington State, all over California, and then I got the position here at City. So if you're in that position, you might want to consider taking a job that maybe isn't your ideal job with an eye towards this will give me more experience and put me in a better position for when my ideal job does show up. Just my 2 cents. Not everyone's in that position, but thought I'd share.
That is fantastic advice. And this ties a little bit to the next question that someone had, which this pandemic has forced us to rapidly transition and expand online or remote learning and teaching. Do you see this becoming a growing market where adjuncts can find a hiring lane? So
I'm going to first chime in about the part about how long. And we're hearing right now that there's schools in New York that have no intention of going back any earlier than fall of 21 on campus, if then, right? And from my perspective in my seat, it's a really tough one because as the vice president, I want to make sure everybody stays safe. And as the nurse, that's another one just pushing on me. But and our students, right? We want them to have a healthy, enriched learning environment. But then again, we also want to make sure we don't want them to be the cause for them to get sick or become ill. So I think everybody talks about this new normal. I hate that term because I just don't like it, but there's some truth in that, right? I think the way we used to do things won't be the way it always is. And it's for us to reimagine and to change this. But so yes, in the long term, I think we will have, not because I choose and want us to always be online, but I think there's going to be some things that are going to continue in that aspect. And if people are not comfortable yet in that kind of remote environment, this is a great time to get those skills up, to start working on them. So I'll take it from that perspective. If anyone else wants to chime in.
I would like to take it from the political perspective, and that is at the state level, legislation was passed years and years ago that we're supposed to be working at 75% full-time contract to 25% part-time. Unfortunately, that's in the reverse right now. So a lot of whether we hire adjuncts or don't hire adjuncts has to do with budgets. And right now we know we're in a hiring freeze. Also us, and we'll get into politics a little bit more, but the idea is that everybody needs to be pushing for more funding in education, plus needs to be pushing for us being able to hire more full-time faculty. And that needs to happen from the state's chancellor's office all the way back, all down, trickling down to us. But I think the opportunity to get in as an adjunct right now, specifically, if you have very, very good technology skills, you'll probably be needed.
Great suggestion. We do have another question from Veronica that says, I currently work at Santa Monica College, and after a certain amount of semester hours, adjuncts can gain associate status. Is there something similar at San Diego Community College District or at San Diego City College? I'm not sure if HR or Elba knows the answer to that.
I think Nadia could speak to that. Nadia, are you there?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the question really quickly.
It's basically how, if student are, can you read, are you at the place where they're asking
I
it?
currently work at Santa Monica College after a certain amount of semesters hours.
I can speak to that if you want.
Please.
Yeah,
I think I know the answer, but I'll let you take it.
Oh, no,
Yes, you do. You know it, Nadia, because you do it.
I don't know. I mean,
yeah, so according to the contract, if adjuncts work 6 semesters, they get something called POA, which is priority of assignment. But priority of assignment doesn't actually give you sort of an associate status. You're still an adjunct professor. So Veronica, I'm not sure if your question is, do you get a title or do you get some sort of guarantee about classes? If your question is about the latter part, do you have a guarantee? Yes, after 6 semesters, you get a guaranteed assignment. If you want to know more about that, you're definitely welcome to shoot me an email and come to the adjunct Know Your Rights, Know Your Contract workshop. It doesn't come with any change in title, though. I hope that answered your question. If anyone else has stuff to add in, please feel free.
Good job.
And I think Veronica raised her hand, so she can unmute herself and ask and clarify her question if she'd like.
Hi, yes, thank you so much for answering that. Yes, that was my question. It's not a change of title. It's really more of a guarantee that if they need to cut positions, you're kind of given 1 semester heads up, and that way you can find another job if they're not going to be rehiring. But you answered my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Veronica.
Yes, thank you.
And if I could, Marciano, I was going to ask if Dean Erica could unmute her video and join us and give us a moment of what she's working with Sidika.
Well, I was going to do the same thing. So
sorry.
So we're on the same page. I love it.
Hello, everyone. Well, this is certainly a subject I like talking about, the Sidika internships. And I'll share that I was an adjunct for 20 years myself, and I worked at 3 different colleges, including continuing education here at San Diego Community College District. And my opening to a teaching job was at Grossmont College in an internship. And I was so fortunate that the brand new faculty member was assigned to take me because nobody else wanted to take an intern. That's not true at City though. People love having you. So I worked at Grossmont for 2 years as an intern, and we became very good friends. And that's how I got my foot in the door. I would not have probably had the opportunity had I not had an intern. So it's critically important to have someone who can advocate for you, can let you know the ropes, can teach you the things that the folks that you've heard today have been talking about. So the Sidika internship has been in existence for, gosh, probably over 15 years. It's actually operated out of San Diego State. It's called Interwork. I was going to put the link in the chat box, but I know that I've clicked on links before and been, they don't go. So I didn't risk doing that. But I did put my email address in there so you can contact me directly, and I'll make sure that you have your questions answered and get any help that you need regarding this internship. So SEDICA internships are actually available region-wide. Of course, your favorite place to be would be here at City College. And you'd apply in the spring. The spring applications then come to fruition in fall. So when you apply on the website for, you can just Google SEDICA internships, and that's 3 C's. SDCC, no, SEDICA, SDICCA, CCCA, SDICCCA, 3 C's, internships. And it'll come up for you, and it'll talk to you about minimum quals, which means, you need to have a master's degree, or you could be in graduate school almost out. We do accept folks who are almost completed with their degree. And you would then have your application submitted regionally, and you can make a selection as to your first choice of regional community colleges. And of course it will be City College. And then I, as the coordinator, will distribute the applications to the folks in my college, in this college, who are teaching a subject, or who are the department chair teaching, who have the subject that you're interested in. So that's for faculty, and this is a teaching opportunity, if you would like. Now, the good thing about our internships here at City College are that you do not have to be just interested in teaching. You could be interested in working as a counseling position in our financial aid office, in student services, or even for the vice president of student services. She's also put her name in the pool here. So next year, we're going to have some really outstanding, also the Dreamer Center. I meant to mention that. These are all people who have talked to me this semester in hopes of having someone wonderful come in and be an intern the following year, which would be 2021. Now, if you're interested in having an internship, sorry, didn't have my coffee. Prior to that date, email me anyway, because I can help connect you with a department or a dean that might be interested in having an intern. So what do you do as an intern? We ask you to spend at least 4 to 8 hours with us. Those 4 to 8 hours can be watching the faculty teaching. It can be attending meetings, Senate meetings, board meetings. It can be doing some assignments to learn more about teaching in community college that your faculty or dean mentor will be assigning to you, about 4 to 8 a week. In addition to that, once a month, you'll be attending workshops at every single community college. Now, the advantage of that is next semester, when you apply in spring, will be that you're not going to be driving anywhere. So you'll be able to attend a meeting from each of the community college locations. City Colleges is going to be Friday, November, I think it's the 13th, next month. And certainly if you'd like to attend, I can send you the Zoom address for that. I'm checking the date here. It's the 13th, November, Friday the 13th. There you go. It'll be a lucky day for all of us if you come. So you would attend a once a month workshop at the community colleges. And this is through a class. This is the other requirement, that you apply for a class that is operated through San Diego State. And it does have a fee of about $400 for the year. But that you'll get credit for, and you will learn about teaching in a community college. You have heard some people say that they came in to teach, like myself, and I had never attended a class to learn how to teach. I had a driver's license, I learned how to drive, but I sure didn't learn how to teach in a community college. And this training that you'll get through SEDICA is outstanding. You'll learn everything about community colleges, about how our curriculum, what our curriculum is, about our students, and really sort of the culture of our community colleges, which people have mentioned is different than the UCs. So that's a snapshot. Hopefully I didn't speak too quickly. You got some of that information. I'll put my email address again in the chat. Please feel free to let me know if you are interested. And I believe that there I saw Ashley. Ashley is our current intern, Ashley Nguyen. And I hesitate to call on you, Ashley, but would you like to say something? Do you mind? I know that she did put something.
Volunteered in the chat.
Wonderful. Can we let Ashley, can you turn your camera on, Ashley, and give us a little information on how it's going this semester? I don't see her. Do you guys? Am I missing?
No, she
Yes,
she
she's
put her
here.
info in the chat though.
Okay,
She's
well, she
here.
has.
She's here. She opened up her video.
Oh, good.
Go ahead, Ashley.
I am so grateful for the opportunity to speak. I wasn't expecting it, but I just wanted to say that Sidika has been invaluable for me thus far. It hasn't even been 3 months yet, but I've been able to meet so many people, email so many people, listen to so many different talks and meetings, department meetings, and it's just been a wonderful experience, and I highly recommend it for anyone who is interested in getting to know what a campus is like and just getting to know the people who make up the faculty and so on. And so thank you so much for this opportunity to speak and also ask all these questions and be here.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you, Ashley. And I just wanted to mention that it was sort of a shocker at first when we went online. We as coordinators in the region did not think we would be able to have applicants or even mentors that would volunteer, because it was certainly a novel situation for us, but we did have a lot of applicants, and I hope that you are applying next semester. I guarantee if you put City College, I'll be in touch with you.
Thank you, Dina Rika.
You're welcome.
We also wanted to put a little quick shout out for a call to action, the 10th annual HUBU virtual conference that's happening. The theme this year is Your Fight is My Fight, Tu Lucha es Mi Lucha. Black and Brown brothers standing in solidarity in their fight against all systems of oppression. The conference, the virtual conference is going to be on Thursday, October 29th. From 11 to 1:30. There'll be a Zoom link sent to all those who register, and you can register at sdcity.edu/HUBU, HUBU. And they'll, once you register for the conference, they'll send you the link. It's the 10th annual celebration or conference. So please encourage your Black and Brown men to register and to show up and learn and be in unity with other folks. I also wanted, before we conclude, I don't see any more questions in the chat, but I just wanted to conclude by doing a special thank you again to all of our presenters who took time today to be here and to share their experience with all of us. And particularly want to thank Elba for taking time out of her schedule in retirement and coming and sharing and helping us prep for this fantastic presentation. And she has been a wealth of information for all of us. We also want to thank all of our community folks that came and supported. We had folks from NCCHC Fellows Program. We saw folks from Grossmont, and I think there were some other community colleges. Santa Monica was on there. So we really want to thank everybody who took the time to come and learn. A copy of this presentation will be on the YouTube page for City College. So if you visit the YouTube website and search for San Diego City College, you'll be able to see this presentation and share it with other folks. So if there are no other questions, I just want to say thank you again to the committee, and we appreciate all of you being here, and I'll let Tilly close it out.
Actually, I'm going to ask Alva to close it out for us, and I'm just going to say thank you. And I think Alva, next slide.
Well, this is going to be a call for action more than anything else. You know, as educators, it is our responsibility to get the word out for anything that has to do with funding education. As part of my retirement plan, I decided to run for office, and I'm actually running for re-election this time for the Grossmont Union High School Board. And I would recommend that for anybody who is out there right now, knows of anybody. Excuse me, you don't have to necessarily be retired, but we really need to have educators on school boards. A lot of times folks run for these offices because they're, climbers and they want to, be politicians, but we're not. We're educators and we really care about educating our students and we care about education. So one of the best things that we can do this particular round, other than, voting, lots of different people out of office, is to also vote lots of people into office, and then specifically vote on this particular piece of legislation, which is Yes on 15, which puts schools and communities first. This is going to help us to start to regain some of the funding that we lost through Proposition 13. It's going to reclaim $12 billion for our schools and our communities. It's going to also close some property tax loopholes for the wealthy corporations. It's not going to affect the small businesses, and it's not going to affect homeowners. It's also going to prioritize transparency and accountability, which is going to help us to show how these particular revenues are being spent. So we need more money in education. One of the things that you can do if you're currently teaching is to make sure that you give this information to all your students. We are in our full rights to be able to do that. Get all of your friends, all of your families, put this on social media, get the word out to everybody. Do like what my mom used to do. She'd be at the bus stop because she wouldn't drive, and she would talk about all this legislation at the bus stop. And next thing you know, I had a van at the time, and she says, Elba, here's the name and addresses of all the people, all the viejitos I need for you to go pick up, and I need for you to take them to go vote, right? So let's do that. Let's get everybody, our youth, everybody to go vote. Que viva educación, que vivan los estudiantes, que vivan los educadores, y que pues adelante, adelante. Thank you for coming.
And thank you very much.